Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for returning for another segment of Health Professional Radio. We'll be speaking with Yael Shvetz this evening. She's going to share her story of surviving a rare hemorrhagic stroke, otherwise known as a brain bleed. She's part of the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women 2023 Real Women Class of Survivors. Welcome to Health Professional Radio. Yael Shvetz, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. I'm very happy to be here and share my story. Thank you, Neil.
Well, tell us a bit about yourself and the work that you're doing with the American Heart Association.
Yes, so I've been a part of the American Heart Association since February this year, thanks, of course, to myself going through a hemorrhagic stroke. I found sisters and a big family within the American Heart Association after putting together a video of myself and sending it in. And I was honored to be one of the 22 women that were picked or so, or 21. It's been an honor. I've been going to meetings and speaking on behalf of the American Heart Association and everything that I have gone through this past year.
Were you aware of a hemorrhagic stroke? What happened to you? What was going on? What led to your diagnosis? Tell us the story.
Okay, so in a nutshell, about a year ago, in April of 22, I started not feeling good. I was throwing up. I had severe migraines. And my family, my kids who were over, decided to call 911. They came over, but earlier that day, I went to the doctor because I didn't just, ignore these sick and ill feelings. I went to my doctor, and both my doctor and when they called 911, all the professionals around me diagnosed me with being dehydrated. I was definitely misdiagnosed. After a couple of hours, a few hours at home, medical people decided to take me to the hospital. And at the hospital, I was diagnosed with a severe brain bleed, a hemorrhagic stroke, which only affects a very small amount of people who suffer from strokes. And I was taken into immediate surgery, which lasted about 8 to 10 hours long. And at the time, they also cut half of my skull away. And I was put into a 10-day-long coma. So really, if my kids weren't around and didn't call, 911, I don't know if I would have been alive and able to speak with you today. So between the doctors, my kids, and, being able to join the American Heart Association, it has been quite an amazing year for me.
I said that your goal was to inspire other women like yourself, not only to raise awareness about this rare condition, but also to raise awareness about cardiovascular disease in women. Were you aware that you were suffering from cardiovascular disease?
I was not, because I didn't have the usual symptoms, the tingling, the face drooping, the slurred speech, the changes in the only things that I did have, like I said, on the day that I wound up in the hospital with the stroke was severe migraines that kept coming back and going away. They probably started a week before I wound up in the hospital, but I kind of ignored them because I suffer from migraines. So, I took a pill and let it go away for a little bit, but it came back. Except the difference was on that specific day, I did have I was throwing up a lot. So it was kind of like having a bad stomach virus that wouldn't leave you. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was misdiagnosed by, both my doctor and the medical people that came with the ambulance to pick me up. They all said that I was severely dehydrated. That was only maybe one of the symptoms that was going on. So thank God I wound up at the hospital and diagnosed with bleeding in the brain.
What advice would you give others when it comes to supporting their heart health, women in general, but mothers as expectant mothers too?
So I would just say, from my experience, follow your gut feeling. If something doesn't feel right, and I always say this, if something doesn't feel right, don't be ashamed, don't be afraid, and don't maybe listen or go online and read all kinds of stuff. If you think that you need to go seek some medical advice or medical attention, definitely do that. Definitely if you feel, heart palpitations or severe headaches, and this is not something that happens to you all the time, get advice from a doctor. Speak to people. Don't listen to people that say, oh, it's nothing. Because, I didn't. I knew that I needed that wasn't me, that wasn't the usual. So I definitely did seek advice. And even with the advice that I, went out and looked for, I was misdiagnosed. So it doesn't always, help, but at least the outcome was good because I'm here and able to talk about it only a year later. This, for me, it was a miraculous recovery, but not a lot of people can say that they came out of it the same way that I did. So just be hopeful, keep a good, and happy kind of, way of life, because I think that's part of what helped me get out of the situation that I was in, because you can definitely fall into a very deep depression after going through a stroke. That can easily happen from, having to go through therapy to being at home for a long time and not being able to work. But, with the support of the Go Red for women and the American Heart Association, I have been able to meet so many great women and been able to talk about this. So it's definitely helpful to be and to belong to a support group. And there's definitely a lot of support groups out there.
And I do believe that our listeners can learn more at goredforwomen.org. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Yael, I appreciate you joining us here on Health Professional Radio. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully you'll return and tell us how things are going in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Yael Shvetz. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Health Professional Radio.